Welcome to your mat. We're going to get started in a comfortable seat. For practice, you can use whatever you have at home. If you don't have a yoga blanket, you can find something else to sit on. But if you have a blanket, you want to fold it over in half, just enough so that you can sit on it in a cross-legged position, which we call Sukhasana. So Paul will be practicing and demoing as I guide us through today. And in this seat, you want to take a moment to use your hands underneath your seat and widen so that the sitting bones, these bones that are felt under your hands, bringing all the weight down, tip back, allowing your lower spine to sit up nice and tall. And you can take a moment to close your eyes as you rest your hands on your legs and just take a couple of rounds of intentional breath, breathing out whatever you've been doing before this moment in time, giving yourself permission to fully be present with what we experience on the mat today. There's no expectation, there's no measurement of if you do well or not in yoga. It's simply meeting the experience of what arises with freedom. You have no need to be flexible in advance for this practice. We're simply experiencing what it's like to move and strengthen and stretch and bring freedom to the body, and also to taste into how that brings greater freedom to our minds, more clarity, more energy, more inspiration. So let's open up to the possibilities of practice today. Taking one more full breath in and out through the nose, nice slow breath, and we'll continue breathing through the nose through the duration of practice. You can open your eyes as you're ready, and we'll begin here with a side body stretch. So you'll take the right hand onto the floor next to you and crawl the fingers away a little bit. Take your left arm to sweep up and overhead alongside the left ear. Have the palm pointing down. And it's really simple. You don't have to overthink it here. Just breathe into the stretch. As you keep your left hip grounded down, you're letting the breath go in and open up the intercostal muscles between your ribs, opening up your waistline and your back. And you're even just gently turning your chest open. You can look up, or if that's any strain, just look simply downward to release tension in the neck. With your next inhale, lift yourself up like you're pulling up on a rope and go directly to the left. And you'll probably notice as we move side to side, left and right side, usually one side is more dominant. So we might use the right side or the left more, and you're going to see that show up in our stretches. Just take a mental note. You might take some extra deep breaths there, or in a home practice, we can stay a little bit longer on the tighter side. Taking just one more breath here, try to soften the eyes, soften the face. And then with a big inhale, lift yourself up to come out. And we'll transition now to hands and knees, this tabletop position, sliding everything off the mat. You want to make sure to spread your fingers brightly. This is taking the weight down the arms, across the hands, and the way we work the hands protects our wrists. So fingers spreading, each finger pad takes weight down. And if I try to lift his finger up, he's going to resist. So that's the tone that you're working in your hands to protect your wrist here. And we'll move through some cat and dog tilts, or these are spinal rolls, with the breath leading the way. So on the next inhale, the tailbone begins to lift up, the lower spine arches, and the gaze goes up. This is called dog tilt. On the exhale, it starts at the tail, scooping under, and the entire spine rounds, chin goes to chest. Start to get a little flow going there. You can go really slowly. You can start to pick up the pace and go more quickly, which will build some more physical heat in the body. It's your choice. There's no right or wrong there. It's what feels good. As we're moving through the spine, we're trying to awaken each segment, meaning the lower spine, the mid spine, and the upper part of the spine. Usually there are some gummy, sticky areas that we feel less connected to from our chair screen culture. So you might linger in this next round when you bring your chin to your chest, put a couple breath or extra 2 breaths into that tighter band, wherever that is. For many, it's in this mid thoracic spine, the mid part of the rib area. And then you'll slowly, once again, unfurl that, lift the tailbone, arch the low back. And now walk your hands forward 6 more inches towards the front line of the mat. And here we're setting up for downward facing dog with good alignment. Once again, the fingers are clawing and I'm going to try to lift and I cannot, which is good. And then he's going to soften his sternum, the chest down, which plugs the shoulders on the back. Keeping a dog tilt, meaning a lift in the tailbone a little bit, will increase curve in the lower spine. Take that to exhale back to downward dog. So the hips lift as you press through the hands. You may work with straight legs or simply keep both knees bent. And as your head is releasing here with gravity, there's a real sense of just a long neck. Your ears are in line with your upper arms versus, just to show for contrast, the head dropping and hanging, which pulls tension on the neck. So we're going to float the ears by the upper arms, which allows for, again, that neck or cervical curve to have its neutral positioning. And then pad out your legs, walk your dog, ground one heel side to side, slowly and mindfully as you move, giving your calves some attention, your hamstrings. As your heels press downward, you're also opening up your feet. From here, you'll look forward, steady your dog, and then bend your knees and take a very slow stroll to your hands. As you come closer to your hands, you want to come on your fingertips. You could always, if you have blocks at home, use them, hands on blocks. You could also modify by placing your hands on the front of your shins towards the ankle line, the farthest point down. Can't emphasize enough, you don't need to be flexible in order to do this practice. So you're just meeting your body where you are. This is called Uttanasana, the forward fold. We want to stack the hips directly over the ankles. So it's common the hips will either rock forward or back. So you might just sway a little bit, as Paul's showing here, to find the contrast and then feel that felt sense where hip bones stack over ankles and they're like two columns coming down your legs, evenly weighting into the left foot and the right foot. If you find that your lower back is really rounded, meaning even your lower back is higher than the sacral plate, the back of the pelvis, you'll want to bend your knees here and actively work to lift the tailbone, getting that dog tilt once again. That's how we know we're doing safe forward folding. So don't be afraid to bend the knees and keep the active lift of the tailbone if your spine's not ready yet to release into the full bow. There's always a way to work it. Now place your hands on your hips. Take a pause, hug your shoulders back, broaden the chest, and with an inhalation, root down through your foundation to rise up, and now reach up. Big breath as you look up with your eyes, and there's a sense of energy grounding down from the legs to your feet, and a sense of energy rising up and away from the ground, earth and sky. From here, join the palms to touch and pull the hands to the heart. Shoulders now anchor back, meaning towards the sockets. There's this gesture of just beginning with openness. We're moving through 2 rounds of sun salutation, the Surya Namaskar. Take a breath in, get bright inside. Exhale, relax the arms. Inhale with the breath leading, stretch up. Exhale, following the pace of breath, bowing, moving together in sync with breath. Inhale, look halfway up, coming on fingertips. From here, you'll step the right leg back to a high lunge position so that the front knee can stack directly on top of the ankle. If you find your knee is bending forward of the toes there, you want to move your back leg a little bit farther back. And as you're here for another breath, come on fingertips, look forward, and really lift the back leg higher up to release tension in your low back. Stay looking forward, step your left foot back, plank pose. Now you're bringing your palms flat. Your feet are hip bone distance apart, they're not touching. And instead of dropping the head, looking under, you're going to look forward and really invigorate and lift the body away from the ground. Now take your time, bringing your knees down and find the dog tilt again, arching the spine, toning your belly. Start to lower your body like you're an airplane coming for a landing, going forward and down, really taking your time to keep your shoulders on the back. Once down, point your toes. This is a back bend, Bhujangasana or cobra pose. You'll start to curl through and lift up. You can stay low or come up a little higher. It's up to you. You can play around and feel into the first one here. Key points for everyone. Elbows are bent. They're close to the side bodies, but they're not pinned in. They're also not wide because you lose power to integrate the shoulders back. You can see here, Paul's going to demo the shoulders forward, and this puts the apex of the curve in the low back. It doesn't feel good. So instead, he's going to bend a little bit and anchor the shoulders back, bringing the apex of the back bend in the chest. Take one more breath where you are, and then lower yourself down. Push through hands and knees back through that table. Pause to claw your finger pads, soften the heart, get the curve in your lower back, and on an exhale, downward facing dog, press back. So we have the form of the poses that many people are familiar with, and then we have these actions that create more opening and more alignment. We're following the biomechanics of the body. Keeping both shoulders lifted up on the inhale, lift the right leg back high behind you, just taking a breath there. And then use the momentum, the swing of that leg to step between the hands. You might do it slowly as he just showed, or you might need to get some swing there and even help grab the ankle with your hand to pull it forward. Yeah, so sometimes we get a little rusty in the hip joint, no problem. You want to land once again, knee on top of ankle and back leg actively lifting up as you look forward for a breath. Next inhalation, the left foot will meet the right foot at the top of the mat. Feet separated hip bone distance. Unless you're pretty flexible, you could then join the feet together to touch. Know that the more narrow the position, the more intense the stretch on the back of the legs. You get to choose. With your next inhale, reach your arms wide, ground down through your feet to rise up, look up as you stretch, and bring the hands to the heart. Take a full breath and relax the face, the jaw, the shoulders. Then relax the arms. Inhale, sweep high. Think of the sun that we're honoring, this inner body brightness like the sun. Exhale and bow forward. We're opening up all the major muscles and joints in the body here. Inhale to halfway lift. Exhale, step your left leg back now. We're going on the second side. Right leg went first, now the left leg goes. Gaze is forward, and the heart, the upper body, is stretching out and away from the hips. So we're always working in multiple directions there. Plank pose, next inhale. So palms come flat. Once again, to protect the wrists, he's going to resist me able to lift his fingers. It's so important to protect your wrist. Now, either you'll go back to knees down to lower your body, or this is called Chaturanga Dandasana. You'll start to bend the elbows. This is the yoga push-up where the elbows are close in, the shoulders are lifting, not dropping, and you'll bring your body flat and down. The toes point, cobra. Now, as you rise for your back bend again, keep the bend in your elbows, the apex of the curve in your chest region, and imagine dragging your body forward on your mat. So there's some traction and muscle tone in your arms here. And then from here, next option, to tuck your toes, go directly back to downward facing dog. If you need to slow it down, go all the way to the floor through table and then meet back in dog. Taking a moment to just really enjoy a full breath here. The next inhale, you'll lift the left leg up high and you're spreading your toes, trying to turn the toes downward more than to the side. That whole rotation will show up through the leg, squaring in the pelvis. And then use the momentum to step the left foot between the hands. Taking a breath here, looking up. And then inhale, right foot meets the left, bowing at the top of the mat. And this time we'll bring the hands to the hips to really use that leverage, anchoring the lower body to lift all the way up slowly with the breath. And relax the arms for a full breath. From here, Paul's going to come to the middle of the mat, facing forward, and then take a nice wide stance. So with outreached arms, steps the feet apart, toes are straight ahead, and the ankles land about under the wrists. If in doubt, always go a tiny bit wider. Most people go too narrow. From this position, the right toes turn in slightly, left toes turn open. We're going to link a couple standing poses together. So inhale, the body lifts up, you get taller. Exhale, warrior two, Virabhadrasana 2. These are the Sanskrit name of the poses that we like to honor the tradition which we teach and practice from. From here, we don't have any mirrors, so we're just creating a sense of the body moving in space. Are the arms felt level? Is there a sense of breath that's moving in this pretty heating pose? The eyes soft as they look out over the left fingertips. That's called a drishti or a gazing point. The sense of the front knee widening to the left is giving greater hip opening. The back leg is straight and firm as you intentionally ground into the back foot. From here, Parsvakonasana, the left forearm rests on the thigh. The right hand starts on the hip there. We're going to just take a moment to bend a little bit more in the front leg, widen the front knee to the left. You can even use your forearm to get the leverage. And then the shoulders draw back. There's a broadening across the sternum and collarbones. The head leans back. You might stay there or go on to take the right arm alongside the ear, giving this big reach to help the breath penetrate and open up again the side of the body. This side angle pose is the translation of Parsvakonasana. Such a beautiful pose for strengthening the legs, opening up the hips. There is this lovely twist happening here as well. From this position, you'll inhale to rise back to Warrior Two, where we started, and now we reverse the warrior. Back hand to the side of the back leg. You could even modify it by taking the hand higher up the leg on the hip. There's a sense of a fountain, a lifting through the upper body as you look up, and a little bit of a twist to the left as you bend, drop more in the front leg. From here, slowly straighten out both legs and then release your arms, parallel your feet. Take a breath here. Got hot, it's sweaty in here. You're in the wide position, toes are straight ahead. Here with the hands on the hips, this is Prasarita Padottanasana. You want to lift up and like there's a string pulling the sternum forward, begin to bow, lengthening as you eventually fold the head, bringing the hands to the floor or even blocks. You can be as high up as you might need. You might even bend the knees, show that just as before, and work the lift of the tail and the sitting bones to get eventually the sacrum higher than the lower spine. If you can do that already, play around with straight legs there. If it is available, hold on to your lower shins, your outer ankles even, the lowest part of your leg that you can. You're going to pull inward with your hands while pushing apart with the thighs. So the lower legs are drawing in, the upper legs widening out, and that's going to stretch open the hamstring fibers, also just widening through the glutes and even into the lower back area. With the hands now on the hips, shoulders back. Notice how I have you pause before we just pop up. We're making pauses intentionally here. We're also going to open up throat, so chin away from chest as you inhale and now rise. Think about adding an extra breath or two before you speak in a conversation, right? This is our practice. Now, once again, wide arms. We'll turn the back foot in first. Left toes in, right toes turn 90 degrees. You might want to look and triple check that. Alignment is going to protect your knees. Big breath in, grows taller through the top of the head, and then exhale, Warrior Two on the second side. Gaze turns over the right fingertips, and you're playing for your body the appropriate edge. So you might need to just modify. If you need to straighten the leg a couple times and not hold it so long, you can. For some of you, you want to increase the heat here. You are playing around with getting your front thigh more and more parallel to the floor, still tracking knee on top of ankle, never letting the knee go forward of the ankle. And then Parsvakonasana, our second pose here, forearm to thigh, left hand to hip. We're going to add a little principle here of the feet pressing down into the mat and as if dragging together, as if you had ice skates on. So now you're toning the inner legs, the adductor muscles here. And then the pelvis, the lower body, I want you to press it back behind you, which sets the femur back. It's going to create softness in the hip flexor area, more lumbar curve there. And then looking to the navel with the eyes for a moment, you'll scoop the right buttock underneath, the front hip under even more. Now widen your front knee a little more to the pinky toe side of the mat. And then if you're feeling it, stretch your left arm by the ear. Breathe. We have just gotten into this really refined alignment. So you can see lining up the pelvis and the legs, going to give even greater opening here. It's hard work, but it's really therapeutic as well as a powerful opener. Now, inhale up for Warrior Two, just for a breath, and reverse the warrior. So once again, there's no compression. We're lifting up out of the lower back. And then slowly inhale, press both legs to straighten, relax both arms, standing parallel, toes straight ahead, heel toe all the way back into standing. And I'll have you just close the eyes for a moment in mountain pose or Tadasana. This is our equal standing position. Shoulders are back. Feel your body where you're standing, just exploring head over the heart, ears in line with shoulders. Shoulders and ears in line with your hips. Hips stacked over your ankles, not locking in the knees. Just finding that sweet softness, balance in the body. And you can open up the eyes. And then we'll come now to having a seat on the ground with both knees bent, feet out in front. This is called the seated figure 4 stretch. So from this position, some of us might want to sit up as we started on a folded blanket, or you can stay on the ground. Again, how do you know? It's what's going on in your lower back. So if the lower back tends to round and pull you back, you do want to sit higher up. And then we're going to start by crossing with straight legs, cross the right ankle over the left and have the foot a little bit off the side there. And then bend the left leg, foot on the floor. So if I lose you in a step, if we get here and you're thinking this is too intense, back up, go to the first step there and let your body just really breathe into where you need to work today. In this form, the hands are on the floor behind the body, and there's a sense of broadening the chest and moving the shoulders back as you're working in the hip opening, pressing the top knee away from the body. The stretch can be increased any amount, your choice, by bringing the bottom heel that's on the floor closer in and even walking the hands closer into the body. So the tighter the legs get to the chest, the more intense you're going to get a stretch in the glute area and the outer hip area. This is external hip rotation. From this position, you're going to slowly release and switch sides, straightening out the left leg, then the right, crossing over. Once again, as you come into the form, I want to point out the importance of the movement between the postures, being just as mindful, full of attention, because how we enter and come out, it's when a lot of people lose attention. And so we want to stay protective in our dynamic actions as well as we're holding the pose. You can increase the stretch, bringing the heel closer to the body or the hands closer in. Even though we're holding the pose, pressing the knee away, it's not static at all. It's very dynamic. We're allowing the breath to continue in and out through the nose. Getting curious even. Awe and wonder are really important aspects of this practice. The attitude and the spirit we bring as we explore what's available, what's present in the body. And then we'll slowly release out, right leg straight, left leg shakes out. Now we have another exciting hip opening pose that we come into from downward facing dog. This one is called the pigeon prep. So come back through table to set up your dog and spread your fingers, really press the floor away as you come into your dog, aware of the tailbone lifting, the lower spine arched in. So we're never forgetting these important actions to protect and open up. Now the right knee will bend, coming forward, and as you come into pigeon prep, the knee will go wider than the hip itself. You'll come on the outer shin, outer foot of the front leg. To increase the stretch, you can use your hands to pull the whole front leg more forward, more parallel to the front of the mat. Some of you can get it all the way parallel if you're really open there. Otherwise, to decrease, some of us need that, you'll pull the heel closer into the body. So you get to really feel into it and listen to what's needed for today. Another tip here, the back leg, you want to make sure it's parallel to the sides of the mat. It's going to line the bones and the muscles. And you can move the back leg a little bit farther back, which is going to allow the pelvis itself to soften down. From here, fold forward. That means come down on your forearms, but don't collapse, meaning don't collapse your belly or your head. I want you to imagine you're resting over a beach ball here. So there is a sense of the tailbone scooping under, the lowest part of your spine, scooping under. The sides of the waist are lifting up here. And you're keeping tone in the low abdomen as you're stretching from the core of the pelvis out long through both legs. This is, again, getting into the piriformis area, deep in the glutes, even to the outer side of the leg. In every stretch and every pose, each person will feel it a little differently. Our bodies are really unique. From here, you'll want to walk the hands in, coming upright for a breath, looking forward, softening on the exhale, and then press back mindfully through downward dog, taking a breath there to feel the right side, feel the left side after the stretch. It's nice to contrast it and feel the power of the pose. And then we'll bring the left leg forward. I want to emphasize again, the knee is wider than the hip. So pause, the left knee is not pointed straight ahead. You may do that if you have a knee injury or an acute condition going on there. But in general, for healthy knee, take it wider. You're going to get more hip opening. Then the right leg, the back leg scoots back. Here I'm going to have him keep the toes tucked, and he's looking over the shoulder to see for himself. Ankle is upright, the leg parallel to the sides of the mat, and he can then bow forward. So in this one, I'll give you a little demo of what you can do at home, a little assist for your own body. Without letting your back heel turn to the side, you're going to lift the back knee up to hover for a moment. And I want you to think about rolling the thigh in towards the middle of the mat, which will turn the outer right hip down, and then place the whole unit to rest back down. So now you'll feel like the outer right hip is turning down. There's a sense of what we call medial rotation or inner spiral to the back leg. Notice how that enhances the stretch here, especially on the left side as you stretch out and away. Take another complete breath. And then walk your hands in, straighten your arms, stay there for a breath, as upright as you can get in your torso. And from here, we'll press back to our final downward facing dog of today, which is an inversion pose, meaning your heart is higher than your head. It creates a cool calmness to the mind, also stimulating and heating. This pose basically is the one pose, if you had to just pick one every day to do, it gives you a little bit of everything. Stretch of the legs, gives you chest, shoulder opening and strengthening, that lovely quieting inversion. Child's pose, everyone's favorite, or maybe second favorite. You're going to point your toes, separate your knees a little wider than your outer ribs. And you can choose what's comfortable for your upper body. If it's available to rest your forehead down on the mat, do so. Arms are just soft. They can be stacked like so for a little pillow support if the head is straining at all to rest down. You could also put a prop a little bit under your forehead if you need a little more lift. And now we soften and allow the pelvis to release down to the heels with every breath out. And we offer up all the efforts of our practice, giving ourselves freedom just to let whatever the experience was be exactly what it needed to be today. No judgment, no comparison, no timeline. There's freedom. Taking 2 more breaths here. We'll then slowly come up and come all the way on the back, reclining. And this final pose is everyone's favorite. Or I will add, for some people it's pretty hard because the goal here is to relax. So placement is important. You're right down the middle of the mat. Bless you. The head is centered, not turning side to side. Palms can be up, the arms a couple inches away from the body, not too wide, not too narrow in. The legs are separated a little bit wider than the feet to help the lower body soften and drop down. And now with eyes closed and the sense of breath getting quieter, letting go of any technique of breath, can allow all the muscles that we just worked to soften, to melt like melting butter, letting go of any effort at all. The word Shavasana, Shava means corpse pose, corpse. And so as yogis, we practice this pose daily honoring that all of life has its cycles of birth and the peak of manifestation and death, dissolution. And it's a reminder and a practice that invigorates us to live life fully. As you're turning in and resting, allowing a heaviness to come through your limbs and the back of the body. Can maybe sense how leaves fall off the trees in the fall. You're just allowing whatever's ready to drop away, any stress, any mental stories that have been keeping you blocked, keeping you trapped. Just letting what's ready to fall away go gracefully. When we see the leaves change color in fall, in autumn, we always say how beautiful it is. And the trees aren't efforting to make it happen. It's a natural part of life cycle. We have this same capacity. So I'm going to leave you here. Ideally, you can stay 5 to 7 minutes. It's a really nice little window to let your body rest and absorb the effects of the practice. Allow your nervous system to shift into this deep parasympathetic rest mode. And I thank you so much for joining us on the mat today. Again, you can visit us anytime in the online on-demand subscription site. Hundreds of classes, different lengths, different levels. Thanks for joining us.